Hello fabulous friends, welcome back to my channel. My name is Bang Bang Von Loola. I'm a burlesque dancer, producer, and a beauty enthusiast. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you my favorite drugstore makeup products that I use to create an everyday pinup makeup look. I incorporate drugstore products into my makeup routine every day, so that's not unusual, but this is specifically only drugstore makeup that I'm wearing today and that I'm going to be talking about. I try to shop around and read a lot of reviews and find really high quality, low priced makeup items overall, but in this video I decided to do the whole thing with just drugstore makeup. I'm not going to be talking about my application process today, but I think I might do a video of how I put together this sort of more modern pinup look, and by modern I mean very much a cat eye, darker eyeshadow, and a little bit more highlight than perhaps I would do in an everyday sort of authentic vintage look. So let's go ahead and start from the base and work our way up. I don't use primers every day, but when I'm noticing that makeup is kind of sliding around in certain areas of my face or my pores are really noticeable, I will go in with a primer. My favorite drugstore primer is known as the primer that broke the internet, and that is e.l.f.'s Poreless Putty Primer. I've definitely spoken about this in my previous videos, and the way that I like to use it is I just press it into areas where I'm seeing larger pores or the makeup sliding around a little bit. I'll just take a little swipe of this, and you can see here it is a putty type texture, and it's really great because a little goes a long way, and it's the pressing into the skin that really makes the difference. You're going to see a lot of e.l.f. products in this video. e.l.f. is known for being very affordable, but also serving very high quality products, so definitely check out this primer and the other things I'm going to mention. Let's move right along and talk about foundation and concealer. My preference for foundation is more of a dewy natural finish. I like the healthful look of the skin, and also a dewier finish does lean towards a more youthful look. I've been really enjoying the Milani Conceal and Perfect foundation. It's their 2-in-1 formula, so it is more of a higher coverage foundation. It definitely has a medium finish that can be built up, and it's more dewy than matte. I do use this as a concealer, but usually in conjunction with another concealer. I'll like just dab this on top to make sure that all of the coloration looks even, but it's really good. A little goes a long way. It's very easy to blend, and I just use a little sort of beauty blender knockoff sponge, and I'll apply it with my fingers first and then spread it out with the sponge. If you prefer more of a matte finish for your foundation, I think that the e.l.f. Flawless Finish Foundation is a good alternative. It definitely has a bit more of a dry texture, takes a little bit more working for me on the skin, but it does have a great finish, and if I'm wanting kind of that more powdered down look, I'll certainly reach for this one, and I've actually mixed the two together and it's worked out really well. Now for concealer, I have been really enjoying yet another e.l.f. product, and that is their Camo Concealers, and they have two different formulations for that. One is more matte and one is a hydrating finish. So these are the two that I use in conjunction with each other. This one here is the more matte finish and the original formula, and this one here is the hydrating one. And I put this one on first, and then I'll blend some of this in kind of underneath it, if that makes sense, for more of a highlighted area. I like to layer them too. It just depends on what, the dark circles are wanting to do that day, or if I have a blemish. But this one's really nice for blendability, and this one's extremely nice for coverage, and together they work very well. So I have to just bring up one of my OG favorite concealers from the drugstore, and that is the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer. And I've repurchased this one many times. It's just one of those tried and true products. It blends really well. It's a little less heavy than the e.l.f. concealers, though those are still good, but if you're looking for a little bit more of a natural finish, I definitely would suggest the Maybelline Fit Me Concealer. For under the eyes, I use a specific powder designed for the eyes specifically, and this is another e.l.f. product, and that is their Smooth and Set Eye Powder in Sheer. So you can't really tell from the lid, it just looks like a lot of e.l.f. products, but it's this very finely milled, fine sheer powder, and I find that it works really well under the eyes, but also in the nose and up into the T-zone area. I tend to not set my whole face with powder because I prefer that dewy look, as I've said, but if they made this in a bigger container, I would use this all over my face. It's super perfecting, it doesn't flash back, and it just erases all of the fine lines and pores and stuff. So I use this under my eyes and on my nose. This is really, really great, especially for the price point. So for all over my face, when I decide I want to do that, I'll use the Physicians Formula Natural Defense Finishing Powder. And this stuff is especially great because it has a built-in SPF. I also find that if I get a shade that's a little darker than where I am with my sunscreen usage, it helps me get my foundation and stuff closer to my tan than buying a whole new foundation for it. And I love the sun protection aspect. I think it's great. Also, as far as a setting powder, I do think that it blurs my fine lines and imperfections. And if I use a light hand, I still get that dewy sort of glow from within. So this doesn't completely cancel out all of that dewy excellence, but it gives you a little bit more of a set sort of look and keeps you from getting oily throughout the day. Now for contour and blush. We're staying in that same vein of Physicians Formula. They do really, really well for their powders, and they're especially famous for this next product, which is their Butter Bronzer. Now I'm sure a lot of you makeup fans have heard of this before. It's like the #1 selling bronzer from the drugstore. I'm gonna admit I only picked it up recently to create this video because the bronzer I was using previously from the drugstore I didn't like. So I thought that I'd go ahead and bite the bullet and get this one. And let me just say, holy shit. This stuff is great. It's truly a buttery formula. It feels somewhere between a cream and a powder. It smells like vacation in Hawaii. Yeah, that's a good smell. That brings back memories actually of my honeymoon in Hawaii. It's just got this nice sort of tropical, almost like coconut pina colada scent, and the formula is so, so great. It blends really well, it looks beautiful on skin without foundation, which I tried, and I think that I'm gonna get a shade darker than this in case I get a little more tan on this year, but it also isn't truly matte. It's got a very fine sheen on it. It's not glittery by any means, but it's definitely not a matte finish. I also use this to contour my nose a little bit, and sometimes with powders that's really difficult for me because I have some odd bumps and sort of wiggles in my nose, but this worked really well because of its blendability. I use it underneath my cheekbones to carve those little suckers out, and underneath my jaw and in my hairline. Can't say enough good stuff about this. So blush really, really makes a pinup look, I feel like. It's that sort of actual blush that you get, you know, you're like, oh man, he said the word dick, or whatever it is that makes you blush. I mean, certainly that's not what it is for me, but I really like the placement of blush for a pinup look to give you kind of that youthful innocence vibe, even though we all know that I have no youthful innocence left. I've certainly obsessed about this in previous videos, including my Milani review, but I use these probably over every blush in my collection on the daily because the formula is so great, and I bought a bunch of colors and I just am obsessed with it. But anyway, blush is my favorite thing to really bring the look together, and my favorite blush of all time, not just drugstore, but it is a drugstore product, are the Milani Baked Blushes. My go-to shade for these blushes is Luminoso, and this is my Luminoso. I've like used it so much that I busted out the front part of it. It's supposed to look like this, but I got a little aggressive. What can I say? I love my blush and I needed it. So I don't even open the damn thing anymore. I just like dip my brush right into that. But Luminoso is a gorgeous sort of a peachy coral shade that is compared to and quoted as being a dupe for NARS's Orgasm blush, which is the #1 selling blush, I think, still to this day. I'm not sure, but for a long time NARS's Orgasm was like the blush to have, and it's supposed to mimic the look of when you flush after having an orgasm. But yeah, Luminoso is fabulous. It has this gorgeous built-in highlighty sheen. I'm wearing it today, and it just has this glow about it, but it's not glittery. It's just a sweet sheen. I don't know. It's hard to explain, but I think it's great. Another one of my favorite colors to use is a more sort of pink rosy tone, and that one is Dulce Pink. And this is very similar to Luminoso in the way that it has a very finely milled built-in highlight sort of effect. Some of the other baked blushes are a little bit more glittery, but these two are my favorite for pinup because it gives just an oomph to the skin instead of looking like it's overly chunky or painted on, if that makes sense. Anyway, yeah, these are great. I want to buy the whole collection of blushes because I literally do not use any other blush. I just think they're so great, and they really complete a pinup look in my opinion. So highlighter is not something that I'd say I wear all the time for a vintage or a pinup look. I think that that sort of authentic style would be more of a matte or sort of satin finish. But when I'm doing a more elevated modern pinup look like today, I definitely will pop on a little highlighter. My favorite highlighter from the drugstore is the Wet n Wild MegaGlo highlighting powders. And this one is what I'm wearing today, and this is Precious Petals. And I have, I think, almost all of the shades of these, but this one is the best, I'd say, for my skin tone to look most natural. They're super, super soft and easy to blend, and they can be built up to be super blinding or more subtle like I did today. And they're really, really affordable. Once you start buying these, because of the price point, I guarantee you're gonna buy like a dozen, so prepare yourself. Admittedly, I have not been using a lot of drugstore eyeshadow. I've been on this huge, like, buy all of the ColourPop eyeshadow palettes recently because I'm just stunned by their quality and price point. But I went back into my mind and remembered my favorite brand for eyeshadow when I first started playing with makeup more seriously, and that brand is Wet n Wild. It was partially based on a ton of reviews that I read, but also the price point, and I remember buying the same one over and over again that had a bunch of sort of neutral and nude shades, and they haven't been making that one because that was like 9,000 years ago, but I went ahead and picked up a new one, and this is the Wet n Wild Color Icon Rosé in the Air palette. And the reason that I preferred to buy this one over all the other ones I saw was honestly because of these two shades right here. I really liked that they had a big pan for the transition shades, and mostly what I use eyeshadow for a pinup look is to give more depth to my eye socket. The brown shades are all super creamy and excellent, so I would say that it's one of those things that depending on the color, the formula varies, but overall, the Color Icon line from Wet n Wild has excellent eyeshadows. They also do singles, and one of my favorite ones is BRULEE, which is this little guy right here, and I'll pop this all over my lid to give myself a nice clean base to my makeup, and if I'm tan enough, I can actually use it as a highlight. So let's talk about eyeliner. Now, I tend to reach for gel eyeliner over a liquid. It's just something I like the way that I can kind of work it and smudge it out if I want to, and just a little bit more flexibility than a liquid or pen eyeliner. My go-to gel eyeliner is the Maybelline Lasting Drama Gel Eyeliner, and today I'm wearing the black, but I also really, really love to wear brown eyeliner, especially for a pinup look. If I'm going for a more subtle everyday look, I'll certainly put brown on. A sort of well-known fact, if you're into Marilyn Monroe, that she actually wore brown eyeliner and not black, contrary to what a lot of things we see. But it was actually a sort of mocha brown eyeliner, and I also use that, which I didn't today, but see, this is just a little bit more subtle but still has that sharp look if you work it in the right way. And these are really nice long-lasting formulas, and you can certainly smudge them out if you want. And for Pinup to get that nice crisp line if you're going for a winged eyeliner, it's really good. But also if you're not going to do a winged eyeliner, which, by the way, no shame if you are not into the wing eyeliner. It is not actually the end-all be-all rule of a pinup look. That's just something that has sort of happened in recent years, that we just put those things together. Pinup is a big black cat eyeliner, but it really wasn't up until maybe the like mid-late 50s, and if you're going for more of a 40s look, you can just smudge these into your eyelashes to give a little bit more definition, and it looks great. You can also use these to do the waterline, and I haven't been doing that recently. I don't really know why, but if you are into lining your waterline, these are safe to do that, and they last a really long time. Now, mascara is one of those things. I have a love-hate relationship with it. I feel like I know how to put it on sometimes, and then I'm like, I absolutely don't know what the hell I'm doing. And I have eyelashes that grow pretty straight out and forward, and so they need a super good curl, so you know, it's a process for me, and I always tend to pop on a more natural looking lash anyway, so using mascara is more to just coat my eyelashes so they match the falsie. But my favorite one, and it has been my favorite for many years from the drugstore, and overall I don't really buy expensive mascara because it just doesn't make sense for me, but it's the Maybelline Colossal Lash, and I prefer the waterproof formula. Now, the reason that I prefer waterproof is that obviously it's waterproof, but also it's a little bit drier, so you can get more of a kind of, I don't know what it is. I want to say fluffy, but that's not quite right. Less wet. So when my eyelashes get wet, they all become like a weird little clump, and there's no fullness. So I find that waterproof mascaras give me more of a full eyelash look. Let's talk about false eyelashes now. My go-to drugstore lash for the last few years has been the Kiss brand Oh So Natural Feather Lash, I want to say it's called. I'll pop a little picture of it up. I don't have a new box right now. I just kind of have my lashes in a little holder, but I am wearing them today, and the difference you may not be able to tell, but I can tell, is between these and other lashes, instead of a blunt cut tip, they are tapered to come to a point, which is what your real lashes look like, unless of course you're trimming them, which would be insane, but I don't know. I have not got very luxurious lashes, so I'm not sure, but these look way more natural because they come to a point at the tip of every hair. They're also very affordable. I tend to buy them in like the 6-pack, and I can use them over and over. This is the same pair, I'm embarrassed to say, that I have used every time I wear this style of lash on this channel since its induction. I do take really good care of my lashes. I wash them and I fluff them up again, but that just shows for the ability to hold wear, and I just really, really like their effect. My eyebrows are a big point of pride for me. I don't necessarily think I have great eyebrows, but I think for a pinup and vintage look that you need to have a well-groomed and sculpted brow. I take that theory all throughout the rest of my life. I want my brows to look very groomed and natural-ish, depending on what the hell is going on with them, but especially, as I said, for a pinup or a vintage look, a well-shaped brow is extremely important. A new eyebrow trick that I have been attempting to learn is the soap technique. If you haven't heard of that, it's simply taking a spoolie like this and a glycerin-based clear soap bar like the Neutrogena, like classic facial transparent bar, and you just get this a little bit wet, like a tiny bit wet, and then you rub it back and forth in soap until you get a little bit of a buildup, and then you comb it through your brows and really press them in so that they stand straight up, and then you can shape them after that. Now, my eyebrows are pretty wily and stubborn, so I am still kind of working out how to really do it the way that I want, but I think that it does give me a more groomed and sort of more natural look, because instead of using a ton of eyebrow product to get everything to stand down, I use the soap first and then less eyebrow product to fill in for shade. The product that I've been using to fill in my brows and also occasionally as a sort of eyeshadow cream pot and eyeliner when I'm in a pinch is the e.l.f. Lock On Liner and Brow Cream. This is the medium brown color, which I'm wearing in my brows today. They also make a lighter brown and a darker brown and a black, and I think this stuff is great as a multi-use product. We know that I'm obsessed with a multi-use product. It's nice because you can still work it around before it really sets if you mess up your eyebrow shape or whatever, and then it dries down and it looks really nice, and you can make it super blocked out or just feather it in, just depends on your application style. And of course, because it's e.l.f., it's super affordable. Affordable. What the hell am I saying? I'm having trouble speaking. Now let's move down to what is probably the most important aspect to a pinup or vintage look, the lipstick. Lipstick is one of those things that I just cannot stop buying, and not just lipstick, but lip products in general. I have so many different options, so many different reds, so many different funky colors. I am just lip obsessed. And I would say that 95% of the lip products I own are all from the drugstore. Today I am wearing my go-to lip liner pretty much regardless of what the color is I'm wearing on top. And that is the Maybelline Lip Shaping Lip Liner in the color Totally Toffee. I think this is great because it's a couple shades darker than my natural lip tone, and I can overdraw my lips if I want or reshape them any way I want, and it gives a little bit more of a dark definition line for that. Also, because the formula is a little bit more on the waxy side, it gives a bit more three-dimensional look if you are overdrawing your lips, so it does in fact look like a new lip line. I went ahead and picked up the brick red color they have from the same line because I know that sometimes you need a little bit of extra help underneath the lip color, and because I'm trying to add more dimension with the Totally Toffee color, this one makes sense to fill the rest of my lips up with so that the lipstick has something better to hold on to. So I could go on and on about drugstore lip products, but I'm just going to try to keep this simple and talk about the brand that I'm wearing today. Revlon is one of the old school original companies that was putting out lipstick and matching nail polish all the way back into, I want to say, the 20s, and I picked up quite a few of their historical lipsticks that they still produce today, and this is one of them. I think this one was made in the 40s or early 50s, and that is Certainly Red. So this is just the classic Revlon tube, and the lipstick itself is just this gorgeous red. I think I've heard someplace that this might be a dupe for a MAC red, perhaps Russian red or Ruby Woo, I can't really remember. I cannot tell you how much I like pairing it with the Totally Toffee lip liner because it gives you that beautiful dimension. If you can see, there's a little bit more of a dark hue on my lip line and then this beautiful bright red, and I think it's just gorgeous. Another one of the old school colors they still make with Revlon is Fire and Ice, and they actually mentioned this, I want to say, in The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is a fabulous show if you haven't seen it. But this is more of an orangey red, and I think it's slightly more sheer than the Certainly Red, which I'm wearing today, but it's super gorgeous. I'm going to go ahead and do a little swatch for you so you can see. It's a cream finish and it can be blotted down to be matte. And yeah, it's super lovely. Nice orange shade. For reference, this is Certainly Red swatched underneath it here. This is more of a cherry red, a little bit more pink in there. And then another lovely one, which is also an old school shade, is Cherries in the Snow. And I actually debated wearing that one today, but I thought that I should go with the classic red just because of the nature of the video. But this one is a beautiful pink toned red. It's probably more pink seeming, especially compared to the other two. but it's, again, a classic from Revlon, and it just looks so good with so many skin tones. And I love that you can buy old school shades of lipstick from Revlon still, so yeah, that's pretty cool. I'll probably do a whole video about Revlon lipsticks. If you are wanting to use a liquid lip from the drugstore, my favorite line is probably from NYX or NYX, and they have a great red called Kitten Heels. So this is what the tube looks like. It's very, very nice, a lot of product in there, and I went ahead and swatched it. So right up here is the liquid lip. And it dries down pretty matte, and you can wear it over lip liner. And this is just a nice, comfortable formula. I also like the Wet n Wild Liquid Catsuit liquid lips, but the red I feel like I prefer is the NYX one. So my last little trick from the drugstore to achieve a flawless pinup look is to use a whitening eye drop. After all the blending and the powders and the yada yada, sometimes our eyes look really bloodshot, and one of the ways to look really fresh and awake and give a lot of attention to the colors on your eyes, etc., is to use a whitening eye drop. Though optometrists don't really suggest you use whitening eye drops often, if you have a photo shoot or a show or something, you just want to look clear and fresh-eyed, what I suggest and what my optometrist suggests is the Lumify eye drops, which you can get at almost every drugstore and on Amazon. They're kind of expensive, but they're absolutely worth it. Like one little drop in each eye and I go from looking cashed to flawless. And I really appreciate that when the eyes look nice and clear, it brings more attention to your makeup and your eye makeup specifically. So yeah, that's my final little drugstore thing that I like to use for my pinup and vintage look. Alright guys, well that's it for this video. I hope that you discovered some new products or can go shopping in your own stash and kind of repurpose some things you already have to create a nice pinup or vintage look. As I've said, this is definitely more of a kind of a bold, modern pinup look that I'm rocking today, which I absolutely love. But if you are looking for more of a subdued, authentic vintage look, any of these products can be applied differently to achieve that. So just remember when you're playing with makeup that it's not always like it only can go on one way. It does depend on how you apply it. In the future, I will do a video to show you kind of a half and half of what a vintage look looks like and a modern pinup look looks like with the same products, so you can see how you can finesse things to work differently. Until next time, my sparkly darlings, I hope that you're doing well. Know that I love you and the future is bright.